Hello and welcome back to the lab. Today on the bench we have a discussion about oscillators, distortion, and noise parameters. This is growing out of a conversation that I was having with a viewer of the channel. We were comparing a few things on the 8904A. Really, we were talking about whether the shield behind the LCD display mattered in terms of stability and performance. Short answer is I measure some slight differences between the two, with and without the shield. Are they between the noise parameters of one instrument to another? Absolutely. Can we conclude anything from that? Not really. So where we're going with this is, as the viewer to the channel and I were discussing things, we realized we actually couldn't have a comparison conversation. Not because of anything deficient on either side, but just because our instruments were talking different languages. So he was taking some distortion measurements, I was taking some distortion measurements. And after a bit of conversation, we realized, given the way the instruments we were using were taking those measurements and how they were working, we couldn't compare anything. So we were generating a bunch of data, but it really didn't answer any kind of questions. So we're going to get into that here a little bit, and I'll explain what went kind of sideways on us and how we can keep that going in the future. Or I should say, keep that from happening in the future. So when I was quoting distortion measurements and things like that, I was using my AA501A that we repaired in a previous video. Now the thing is, with this particular distortion meter, it takes a distortion measurement in a kind of a weird way. And it actually takes into account all noise sources. So this would actually be outputting a measurement called THD plus N, total harmonic distortion plus noise. And that's actually fundamental to how this unit works. There's no way I can get just a total harmonic distortion measurement out of an AA501. It is always going to be THD plus N, just because of how the instrument was engineered. Now, when I'm working on amplifiers, things like that, that I actually like, because I don't want the amplifier coloring noise in audio work, things like that. So I want to know total harmonic distortion plus all noise sources. Tell me how distorted the signal is. So the way the AA501 takes a measurement is it has a very, very deep notch filter. It automatically positions that notch filter over what it thinks is the fundamental frequency, notches that out, and then it says everything left is harmonic distortion and noise. On the input monitor on this, you can get whatever the signal you put in the test jacks, but then and the function output, you can actually see on a scope what's left from a noise perspective. So this is right at the inputs. This is pre-notch or post-notch and measurement, and then this would be a filter. If you had some form of filter, it would send it out, pull it, and then bring the audio back. I haven't really used an external filter much at all. So his unit was measuring THD. My unit was measuring THD plus N. Both units also had a different frequency response. His unit was measuring up to 100 kilohertz. The AA501A can measure 100 kilohertz, but it needs to take in the harmonics. So it actually takes in harmonics and noise up to 300 kilohertz. So our measurement bandwidths were different. Our fundamental measurements were different. So we really couldn't make a comparison of data at that point because we were generating fundamentally different data. Now, I had mentioned I had one of these Quantasylum QA43s, and he was familiar with that device but didn't have one on hand. So I figured I would hook this up. We'd poke at a lot of oscillators because I have a bunch available to me here in the lab. I have an original HP, several generations of Tech, a couple of different flavors of function generators, and I have a bunch of HP synthesized function generators. And I was kind of curious after we were talking is, what's the best oscillator to do general testing, and how do they all stack up in the lab versus each other? And the neat part is here with the 200 CD, we go all the way back to the 50s, and then I've got some Rigel stuff that was made a couple of years ago. So we actually can span the decades too. I know from testing and having to measure and calibrate and things like that the most stable analog oscillators that I have here in the lab are the Tektronix SG500s. And to be fair, this Quantasylum is the only thing in the lab that I have that beats those. and this is a relatively new unit. The tech units are actually fairly old. I needed the Quantasylum to actually measure and characterize their distortion levels because their distortion levels are so low. If I really need ultra low distortion oscillators, the SG505 is still pretty top shelf. That's not to say none of the others work. Actually, I'm expecting them to perform fairly well. The worst one being the 200 CD, with it being the oldest, and that's what we'll start with. But we'll go from there. Now, to take a look at measurement setup, we have a Quantasylum that we know is in functioning order. We are doing single-ended measurements on this one, not dual-ended measurements, so I have the input grounded through a 50 ohm termination as recommended by the manual. And for reference, since I know the Quantasylum is the best oscillator in the lab, not in terms of frequency response, but in terms of signal integrity and measurement capabilities, I'm using it as the reference. As we can see, we have a total harmonic distortion of 0.0001%, and a THD plus noise is 0.0029, which is absolutely incredible for an oscillator, especially given that I'm not using low noise BNC cables. I'm using standard BNC cables, but to keep that consistent, we will be using the same BNC cable, same length, for all the testing that we're going to be doing today. Okay, for testing purposes, we're going to do 50 averages, 64,000 FFTs, and on the RMS volts, we're going to have them right around 3.5 volts. Not all the oscillators are at 3.5 volts. Some of them are down at 3.3. A couple of them are a little bit higher. But we're going to do right around that 3.5 volts into the front of the Quantasylum. We're going to be using Hahn windowing, as that's a little bit better for distortion measurements. And we have a full-scale input of 18 dBV, so the attenuator's out with a sample rate of 48K. So it's going to take a little bit to build the comparisons, but this gets me the best distortion measurements, at least for right now, that I've been able to find. For the oscillators that need 50 ohm inputs, we are going to use a 50 ohm terminator. That's going to get into some of the HP stuff. The SG505s and the 200 CD are actually 600 ohm outputs, which was quite common in the audio world back then. And the base test frequency is going to be 1 kilohertz for everything. So we're going to reset the averages here right now, and we're going to let this build. The green trace that you see on the laptop screen as it's building is the reference, the Quantasylum's own internal. So we're going to compare that to what could arguably be called the best that I have here in the lab. Okay, now that we've built up our 50 averages, as we can see, the content is quite a bit more harmonically rich, keeping in mind that the HP 200 CD is a vacuum tube amplifier. We ended up with a THD of 0.12367, below 1% THD. So really good, especially for the time frame, keeping in mind the HP 200 was one of the first products the Hewlett-Packard company ever made, and also was the basis of some of Disney's Fantasia. So these were incredible oscillators for the time, but we can see quite a bit of harmonic distortion. We can see some close-in distortion that's popping up. The skirt's not very steep on this, as we can see referencing the Quantasylum trace. So it's kind of moving around. It's doing some things. We have some harmonic content, but still pretty incredible for the time, considering that this is a vacuum tube-based piece of gear. I should also mention that that gear is fully restored, fully functional, and has been tested to its specifications. So there's nothing wrong here. This is just the output of that particular unit. I am also going to save all these bitmaps and let this run so I can have a comparison later. I'll also post some of these online if anybody else is interested to them. I'll have a link in the description, and it'll be attached to the Patreon video, so you guys can download these bitmaps and take a look at them. Not on the laptop screen, but closer up if you would like. So up next, we have a Tektronix SG500. This is their mid-range oscillator. I have the frequency canted off a little bit, not too bad. These are analog devices, and the frequency does drift around a touch with warm up and a few other things. As we can see, much steeper skirt already, better close in distortion, still pretty harmonically rich. We have quite a few harmonics falling out to the end, but overall not bad. We're measuring a 0.004% THD with a 0.00448%. So I got a little bit more noise, but THD and THD plus N are running pretty close together. Everything is looking better. Next up, we have the venerable SG505. This is my option 1 unit. So this particular unit is, I have it set up for a single-ended measurement, but it is a differential outputted SG505. So this would kind of be worst case for this unit because it's only using half of the output transformer. And we'll check that against a SG505 non-op one that has a single-ended output. So we can see if that actually makes any difference. This is looking really, really good. Actually, we have our first harmonic is a little lower on the SG505 than it is on the Quantasylum, but we have a little bit more harmonic content going out to the sides. Really nice skirt, little bit of close-in stuff down here, not too much. Keeping in mind, I'm nitpicking below 120 dB down from the carrier. So this is truly nitpicking the signal. This scale, 0 dB is here, or dBV is here, and we're at negative, call it 130 dBV. So this is a substantial reduction in harmonic content coming out of the SG505. All right, so now we start building the SG505 non-op 1, and I'm sorry, op 2. This is an op 1 unit. This is not an op 2 unit, so I have intermod on this, but it's not turned on. I'm hoping that comes down, but it's a little more harmonically rich. So in this regard, my previous unit was actually doing better. We got a little bit of harmonic content higher out here. Still incredibly low total harmonic distortion. We're below 0.0003 for the SG505. So absolutely happy with this result. And I have a THD plus N of 0.00039. So we are below 5, and 0.0005 is the spec on an SG505. So this is still hitting spec, no problems whatsoever. But this particular SG505 is a little more noisy than my op 2 unit. All right, moving over to the lab to some of the HP synthesized stuff. We're on the 8904A multifunction synthesizer. Now, I expect this to be slightly more harmonically noisy than a dedicated piece of equipment. Anything dedicated is going to outperform anything multifunction, just by the way the circuitry has to run. So with it being synthesized, we should have some of the best stability. We should have, but this is also a modulatable unit, so it could jump around a bit. So having some noise, low noise, is not necessarily going to be a problem. But I would not expect this to perform. I would expect this to perform amicably. I do not expect this to perform as well as the dedicated SG505s or the SG502. So, on our HP unit, we can tell significantly more noise. One is our baseline noise is slightly higher, but then there's a lot more synthesis noise down here at the bottom. Not really harmonic content because you're not seeing the regular spikes at the harmonics. However, a whole lot more noise here down at the bottom end. That's what I get for having a touchscreen. Okay, as we can see on our 3325B, we have a much higher noise floor on that. So even getting started, we are, call it 30 dBs higher. So it has a negative 100 dBV noise floor on it. Not terrible. I mean, this is very quiet, but it is measurable. Are your ears going to hear it? Probably not. Much less broadband noise on the 3325, but some additional harmonic noise that we didn't see versus the 8904. THD on this one is 0.029. THD plus N is 0.0454. Oh, so still highly usable, just a little different. All right, next up is the HP 3326A. Same era, and it looks like we have considerably better noise specs. We're still at that negative 100 dBV noise floor. Nothing real terrible there. That could have been one of the design limits of the day. Both of those instruments are from the early 90s, late 80s or early 90s kind of time period. So still highly capable units. The 3326, I've repaired a couple of those on the channel already. They are bench-breakingly massive, heavy, lots of gravity in that one too. So very, very stout pieces of test gear. Even better on the harmonic content than the 3325. So that's really where the money's going, is getting that last couple of percent out of it. A whole lot more has to go into it to get that last couple of percent out. And for completeness' sake, here is the results of a analog function generator, the SG500A. We have a increasingly higher noise floor, lots of harmonic content. We didn't have any sweeps or anything going or anything like that. This was just outputting a sine wave at 1 kilohertz like everything else. Same voltage range. So the dedicated units, this particular analog unit, I would judge this 200 CD being a dedicated oscillator as being a better source, as long as I didn't need square waves or triangle waves. So the dedicated units will typically always outperform a multifunction unit in terms of absolute specifications, but sometimes those absolute specifications are not necessary and a multifunction unit's totally fine. So thanks for stopping by the lab and taking a look at this oscillator analysis video. Hopefully this helps. If there's any questions, hit me up in the comments below. We'll answer what we can, and I do read all the comments in between videos. If you like what you see, hit the like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support the channel, check out the Patreon page. Patreons are running ahead on videos, and their contributions help keep the lights on here in the lab and videos coming up to YouTube. Thanks again to everyone. I will see everybody in the next video. Bye for now.